What's up, Celtics fans? You're watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Coming up later on in the show, recapping an epic Game 1, plus looking ahead to Game 2, some keys to victory for Boston to steal 2 games on the road. Can they do it? We'll discuss later on in the show. Before we get to that and some trade stuff for this offseason, we have a challenge this month here at Chat Sports. It's all about likes in the month of June. Every channel is pushing likes, and at the end of the month, we'll see which channel has the most likes. So Celtics fans, I know one of our smaller channels here, but we can at least beat some of our other NBA channels, right? Our Mavericks channel, our Knicks channel, Sixers channel. Like the video if you love the Celtics, if you want them to win the finals, and if you want to win this competition. And remember, throughout the month of June, like all of our videos. All right, let's get to some trade rumors here. Terrence Ross, could he be a Celtic during the offseason? Bleacher Report proposed a trade idea for all 30 NBA teams, and Terrence Ross to the Celtics was their idea for Boston. Could be a nice little piece coming off the bench for the Celtics, a 3-and-D type of player who can guard multiple possessions and kind of a streaky shooter that can get hot as well. Here's what Bleacher Report had to say on this idea. Quote, the Celtics own a whopping 11 trade exceptions, including one valued at $17.1 million, stemming from the Evan Fournier sign-and-trade deal with the New York Knicks last summer. They could use this to absorb Ross's $11.5 million expiring salary without having to send any players back in return, as long as ownership is comfortable taking on a higher luxury tax bill. Look, I think Terrence Ross would be a nice little piece for the Celtics. Like I said, he can shoot the basketball. He's a versatile defender. He's a premier athlete. He can really jump and get above the rim as well. I think he's an ideal bench player for a contending team. First, second guy off the bench, seventh guy in an overall rotation. That's Terrence Ross in a nutshell. And he can start as well if needed. Load management nights, whatever the case may be. I am a fan of Terrence Ross, and I think he'd be a nice pick in Boston. Would you trade for Terrence Ross? What do you think? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Get your votes in on this one down in the comments section. Here's the trade idea. Pretty simple. 2023 third or second round pick and that trade exception for Terrence Ross. I'm in. I mean, that's how it should go, right? If you're only giving up a second plus that exception for Ross and you're getting this, he even had a down year, but still 10 points per game. Didn't shoot the ball as well this year, but in the past he's been a much better shooter. If he comes in here, scores 10 points, shoots 35, 40% off the bench from 3, I think he would absolutely live with that from Terrence Ross. Subscribe to the channel if you love the Boston Celtics with the latest Celtics news and rumors. Hit that big red button and subscribe, and we will continue to bring you the latest coverage here on your Boston Celtics. And hey, more subs we get, the more dubs they're going to get during the NBA Finals. Another trade idea that's been thrown out there, this one from the Jazz side of things. Eric Walden of the Salt Lake Tribune mocked this trade that would send Mike Conley to Boston. And he also did one for other NBA teams, or NBA teams in terms of who the Jazz could trade players to. Listen, I think he could be an upgrade over Peyton Pritchard. Obviously, he's older and he costs a lot more money, so you'd have to factor that in. And we'll show the mock trade in a second. But Mike Conley has been a key contributor for a lot of competitive teams. You think about all those runs with the Grizzlies, including a run to the Western Conference Finals, good defensive player, good three-point shooter, has one of the better floater games in the NBA. Okay defender, not as good as he used to be. Here's what Walden had to say on a potential trade. Boston gets an upgrade in playmaking, while Utah gets younger and more defensive-minded in the backcourt, while adding an additional usable big besides him. Here's the idea. Mike Conley, and you get a first in the future from the Jazz because you're taking on Conley's big contract, for Derek White and Daniel Tice. Tice, I don't really care about. Derek White, he's starting to show some things. That would make it tricky, but you're in win-now mode, so it's interesting. Who would win this trade? Type BOS for the Celtics, type UTA for the Utah Jazz. If you had to decide, who do you think wins this trade? Derek White emerging in the latter part of the playoffs makes this tough because if you're Ime Udoka, if you're Brad Stevens, are you thinking, man, Derek White, he could be kind of our third or fourth guard for a very long time behind Tatum, Smart, and Brown. He could be that guy off the bench for us. But at the same time, Mike Conley's still a solid player. Now, I will say this. As someone who watched the entire Mavericks-Jazz series, Conley did not play well in that playoff series. Now, it's 6-game sample size. You look at his overall stats, pretty good. 13.7 points, 43.5% from the field, shot well from three as well. I think he could be an excellent backup point guard for the Boston Celtics. Probably better than Pritchard, maybe even better than Derek White at this exact moment. But with him starting to emerge, I got to admit, that makes this decision a whole lot more difficult. Now, BetUS is the place to go to bet on games and prop bets during the NBA Finals. And hey, Celtics 1-0 series lead. They should feel pretty good about where they sit. Chatsports.com/bet to make an account with BetUS and use that promo code Chat125 when you sign up, because you get a 125% deposit bonus, aka some extra money to go bet on the Celtics in the finals. Game 2, here's the betting odds. Over-under 215.5 points between the two teams. Warriors are a 4-point favorite. And, man, they better not choke in the fourth quarter again. Otherwise, Boston's going to take another game. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Chat125. Speaking of which, let's take a look ahead to Game 2 between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. I mean, what can you say about what the Celtics did in the fourth quarter of Game 1? 120-108 was the final. 40-16 in the fourth quarter. An absolute obliteration for Boston. Jason Tatum wasn't even good. He had 13 assists, but he was 3 of 17 from the field. Jaylen Brown got hot, especially early on in the fourth. But man, a defensive clinic in the fourth quarter and an offensive eruption. I think it's the best fourth quarter performance in finals history. You find me a better fourth quarter in finals history. One that stands out, I remember Dallas in 2011 against the Heat. We're down 15 with under 6 minutes to go, and they won that game. That's pretty damn impressive. But 40-16 on the road? I don't know, man. You're going to be hard to find that, especially against a team that has won 3 championships in the last 6 years. And you did it all with Jason Tatum struggling. 3 of 17 for the field. Sure, I'll give him credit. 13 assists for a guy struggling shooting. That's admirable. Grabbed 5 boards, played some good defense. But, man, imagine if he was scoring. Al Horford, what can you say? Game 1 MVP, 26 points, 6 rebounds. Could not miss. 6 of 8 from deep, 75% from the field overall. They were tremendous, and hopefully Horford plays at a high level throughout this series. Keys to victory to win Game 2 and take a 2-0 series lead. I think number 1, stay balanced offensively. You know, coming into this series, I thought Jason Tatum would have to be by far the best player in the series. I don't know if I feel that way after Game 1. He was not very good, and you still won by 12. Now, granted, you got Derek White playing out of his mind. Al Horford had a great game. You're not going to get that every night, but maybe Tatum doesn't have to average 35 for you to win. If multiple guys are scoring, 12, 15-plus points, spread the wealth, I think that's going to be tough for Golden State to slow down. I do think Tatum does need to get going, though. If he goes 3 of 17 in Game 2, you're not going to win. I would be surprised if you did. So he's got to play better. But again, it doesn't have to be hero ball. Give me an efficient 25 points. 8 of 16 from the field. Let's ride. Get Jason Tatum going in Game 2. And then continue to limit Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole. They struggled in Game 1, were inefficient overall. If Steph goes for 30, 35 a game, that's fine. And by the way, he had 21 in the first, so it's not like he killed you the rest of the game. I think he had, 11 points the final 3 quarters, 13 points, something like that. That's not that big of a deal, especially if he's having to work for it, and especially if Klay and Poole are struggling. And, hey, key 4, let Draymond shoot, baby. Let him shoot as much. Don't even guard him. He cannot make a shot. He was terrible in Game 1 for the Golden State Warriors. All right, there you go. A little look back at Game 1 and a look ahead to Game 2 of this series. Who you got in Game number 2? Type C for the Celtics, type W for the Warriors. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Celtics Today.